What does your body feel like in zero gravity?
What inspires you to become an astronaut?
What exercise do you do, and do you sweat in space?
Would a yo-yo work in microgravity?
So it works.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, I am ready for the event.
Poudre High School, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Poudre High School. How do you hear me?
Poudre High School, I have you loud and clear. Welcome to the International Space Station.
Good morning from Poudre High School. I'm Kathy McKay, the principal, and we are incredibly honored to welcome back to Poudre Dr. Serena Auñón, class of 1993 graduate. Dr. Auñón, we have over 400 students and community members here eagerly waiting to speak with you and to ask you some questions. So without further ado, I would like to introduce one of our students, Alex Root, with the first question.
Hi, my name is Alex. What is the training like before you go to the space station? What is the most difficult part of astronaut training?
I'm glad you asked that question. So our training starts probably about 2 to 2.5 years prior to flight. Some people think we learn about our launch and then we go the next week. But once we learn we've been assigned to an expedition, we start training about 2 years ahead of time. We spend a lot of time in Russia, actually, in Star City, and that's to train on the Soyuz vehicle. That's the vehicle that takes us to and from the space station. And we also learn about the systems on board the Russian side of the space station. The rest of our time, the majority is spent in the United States, where we learn about space station systems. We learn how to do spacewalks in our big neutral buoyancy lab, the big pool. We learn how to operate the robot arm. We also take Russian language lessons. The official language on board the station is English, but half of our crew, a good portion of the time, is Russian, and so we communicate back and forth. As far as the most difficult part, honestly, it's probably the travel. It's just you spend a lot of time away from family and friends, and it's back and forth quite a bit. You are prepared for that to some extent, but that is definitely the toughest part.
Hi, my name is Alex. What is it like to sleep in space? Have you or others experienced sleepwalking in microgravity?
So the great thing about sleeping in space is you can sleep on any wall you want to. So if I wanted to, I could sleep on the ceiling right up here, put my sleeping bag down. I could sleep on the floor. I could sleep on any wall. We do use sleeping bags. And the sleeping bag kind of holds us down at night. It just lets our arms float freely out from in front of us. But we are a little bit restrained because we don't want to bump into everything. I haven't ever seen anybody sleepwalk up here, but then again, you don't know what's happening at nighttime. But for the most part, we all have our own little crew quarters, which is kind of like our bedroom up here, and it's about the size of a telephone booth. So imagine fitting all your belongings for one mission, all your personal effects, pictures, everything, in a telephone booth. But it is your telephone booth.
Hi, my name is Casey Kraft. I was wondering what your daily routine looks like.
Yeah, so our daily routine up here, it's a pretty long day. We work essentially over a 12-hour period. We're awake by 6 or 6:30, and we start working at 7:30 in the morning. And from 7:30 in the morning to about 7:30 at night, we are doing everything from science experiments on board the space station to routine maintenance tasks. A lot of people don't think about that, but the station is getting older, and it requires a lot of upkeep, a lot of maintenance to even keep things like the toilet running and running cleanly. So we are constantly doing maintenance tasks daily. We've got a Japanese cargo vehicle, HTV-7, that is about to approach, or hopefully will be launching in the next few days and will be coming to station. So we've been doing a lot of training on the robot arm. Those cargo vehicles don't come up and dock themselves to space station. They kind of hover at a point outside of station, and then we take the robot arm and go out and grapple that cargo vehicle and bring it into station to get all those supplies that we need. During that 12-hour period, we also have 2 hours of mandatory exercise every day. That's an hour of aerobic activity where we're either working out on a treadmill or on an exercise bike, or an hour of lifting weights. And people think, well, how can you lift weights? You're on board the space station. Nothing weighs anything. Well, we have a special device that creates resistance utilizing vacuum tubes, and we can get loads of up to 600 pounds. So we can do squats, deadlifts, bench press, and this is part of how we keep ourselves healthy and how we prevent any sort of bone or muscle atrophy before coming back to Earth.
Hi, my name is Brennan. What type of experiments do you do in space? What makes them important?
So I'll tell you, some of my favorite experiments that we do up here, and we do experiments in many areas, from human research, materials science, even what we call tech demo. What if we were to go to Mars? Can we test certain things out here on station first? Some of my most favorite experiments are the human science experiments. One of the ones we did just a little over a month ago was some trials for cancer therapy. And we did them on a type of cell called an endothelial cell. And an endothelial cell is just a cell that lines every blood vessel in your body. We all have them. Well, sometimes tumors like to invade those cells. But what researchers have found is that endothelial cells really like to grow up here on board the space station. They can't grow them for very long in culture plates back on Earth to test out any sort of chemotherapy, but they like to grow up here in space. For them, being up here in space is like being just in the body. And so part of the experimentation we did not that long ago up here was to see how long we could keep these cells viable, and then also begin to test out varying levels of chemotherapy on these cells. So that is research that is very important, certainly to me, to all of us up here as a crew, and it should be important to you too, because cancer is always something we're fighting against. And if we can do one small part up here on the space station, I'm really proud to take part in that. The other sorts of experiments we do up here human-wise is people kind of view us as being in a sort of immobile environment. We're not walking around, we don't have gravity, we're just sort of floating around everywhere. And so sometimes our muscles and our bones like to behave the same way that someone does when they're maybe in the hospital for a long period of time, like a grandparent or a parent. They tend to get weaker. And so they look at techniques of how they could rehab us and keep and all the changes in our bones and our muscles, and see if that can translate to folks who maybe are in a hospital bed rest for a long period of time. So a lot of the science correlates, and it's a lot of fun to do up here.
Hi, I'm Leah. Do you ever bring animals into space? Is it true birds could not survive in microgravity environment?
So we do have animals up here. We actually have mice up here right now. We had 20 mice delivered on this latest SpaceX Dragon vehicle. And we've had bumblebees up here. We have had spiders up here. There have been birds in the past. In fact, they have flown quail. They found the quail did not do as well in a microgravity environment, and when they came back, as expected, they had a lot of atrophy, mostly atrophy of the neck muscles. It was very difficult for them to hold their heads up. And if you talk with astronauts, actually, special shuttle astronauts, who, when they are returning from space, they can feel that weakness in their neck muscles almost immediately once they hit a gravity environment. And so, yep, we do have friends living with us up here. It's not just humans.
Hi, my name is Corey. How do you wash your clothes?
Great question. Unfortunately, we have no laundry on the space station, so I am going to show you what we do use for clothes. So imagine you're going on a camping trip, and it's a 2-week camping trip. And then they show you the bag that you can put all your clothes in for 1 2-week period. And I'm going to show it to you. That's it. That's all you get for 2 weeks. One bag. So that's all your underwear, all your undergarments, all your pants, all your shirts, and all your workout clothes. So we have to be very conscious about that sort of thing up here because we live with our trash. And we simply don't just eject it out the airlock. Once something is done and done being used, we store it until we can get a cargo vehicle up here to take it back down. Like, for example, that's what HTV is going to be doing here shortly. But we don't get one shirt every day. We don't even get one pair of underwear every day. So we make this package last for about 2 weeks. And you know what? It actually works really well up here. Clothes don't smell the same up here, kind of like they do on Earth, because they don't really stick to you. You can kind of see my shirt. It floats up above my shoulders. It's very, very different up here. So luckily for us, we're able to make this work.
Hi, my name is Carter. What is the most difficult task to do on the space station?
Almost what you saw me do right there. And a lot of times it is just keeping yourself stable. So you guys can't see, but I've got my feet in these great foot restraints right now to hold me down. But on Earth, you never think about it when you're working. You sit down at a table, your paper stays on the table, your pencil stays on the table. If you're taping little tiny pieces, you don't have to worry about where things are going. Gravity is there to help you. And up here, we don't have it. So sometimes the simplest task can be much more difficult because we always have to think about restraint. So for example, if I'm taking little tiny screws out, I have a big piece of duct tape along the side and I'm very carefully and consciously keeping track of every screw. Because if I turn my head for a second, that thing is gone. I think since I've been up here, I have lost 2 forks, 1 spoon, probably countless meals, tiny screws, you name it, I've lost it up here because I turned my head for 1 second. So when you talk with anybody who lived on board the space station, we are very, very conscious about where we put ourselves and where we put our items. Now, part of that kind of makes our job easier. For example, if I needed to work upside down, that's really simple for me to do. I can just lock my feet onto the ceiling just like this, turn over just like this, and work exactly the same as I would if I were on Earth standing up. It's so I can utilize my feet a lot more up here than I can on the ground.
Hi, my name is Jared. How do you and your fellow astronauts stay entertained?
So I like that question because we actually do spend a lot of time together as a crew. In fact, yesterday we celebrated the 1-year birthday of one of our cosmonauts, Oleg Artemyev. His daughter turned 1 year old. And so we wanted to celebrate that as a crew up here on the space station because it was a very important milestone in his life. And up here we are family, period. And so we all gathered and he had brought up what looked like little boxes of cake for us, for everyone. So we had 6 boxes. But when we opened up that box, it was actually cake in a tube. And so we all got to have birthday cake in a tube, and we had party hats, and we celebrated for about an hour, hour and a half. And he shared pictures of his beautiful daughter with us, and we enjoyed them as a crew and as family up here. And for us, that is very, very important up here. Some of the other things we do, Saturday night is movie night, and so we like to gather, have dinner together, and then we've got a great movie projector screen, and we put that screen up, and we all gather and watch movies together. So that's just one example. Most of the time during the week, we are so busy. By the time we roll into bed, it's late because we do finish work kind of late. But we do have fun together.
Hi, my name is Kaylee. Has your understanding of the cosmos changed since you've been in space?
I don't know that my understanding of the cosmos itself has changed, but certainly how you view yourself in the cosmos. I mean, it is really a magnificent feat that we are able to sustain a crew of 6 up here, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year with all the help of the control centers back on Earth. And we've done it very, very well for a number of years. We launch to and from. We bring astronauts to and from. We've got all these vehicles delivering cargo for us. We have really done well with maintaining a great space station up here and with all the science. And so I think once you finally get up here, you see all the possibility. And you know, people tend to get, maybe sometimes they get bored with, you know, they forget that we have a space station up here, but it is really a magnificent feat. And the other part that's fantastic about that is all the countries participating. I mean, we have tons of countries that come up here and have their astronauts spend time. And again, we are one family up here. And so it's to look at the international cooperation that has to happen on the ground for that to occur on a daily basis is fantastic.
Hi, my name is Olivia. Can you see the effects of climate change from the ISS?
So I will tell you this, one of the most fascinating things we have certainly seen, and I'm going to talk about this because we saw it just a couple hours ago. We flew right over the eye of Hurricane Florence. And to see the hurricanes, and as massive as they are in the ocean, from up here, it blows your mind. I mean, we all, you know, our Mission Control Houston called us and said, you are about to pass over this hurricane. We all dropped whatever we were doing and went to our beautiful cupola, which is like our big window to the earth, and took a look at the eye of Florence. And it was just mind-boggling because you don't get that perspective on the ground. And so certainly weather events, big pattern changes, you see them from so well from up here because you have such a massive vantage point.
Hi, my name is Paris. I imagine the views you have from the space station are incredible. Have you ever been able vacation are incredible? Have you ever been able
Yeah, so one of the neatest things I've seen up here has been the aurora, especially if we have all the lights off in Node 3. Node 3 is a part of the space station attached to the cupola, our window to the Earth. And when all those lights are off and you look out and you see just the greens and the pinks and the purples, they're like alive fingers stretching. And it just, aurora look alive up here, and they are alive. And that, to me, has been one of the most beautiful sights I've seen up here.
Hi, my name is Tom. What is different about actual spacewalks as opposed to what you see in Hollywood?
Yeah, Hollywood makes preparation for spacewalks look so easy. One big difference, we wear diapers. It is an absolute necessity. You're in that suit anywhere from 6 to 7.5 hours. And what you don't see is all the time the astronauts spend in the suit before they finally even go out the airlock, and the hours and weeks of preparations it takes to get those suits ready and to get those astronauts ready. It's a lot of work. It's absolutely fantastic and fun, but it is a lot of work to get us safely out the door and safely back in.
Hi, my name is Allison. I would love to hear about your experience as a Poudre High School student and how did Poudre prepare you for your career?
Thank you for asking that question. First of all, I want to say thank you so much to Mr. Linzicki, who is there for helping me set this up. I remember sitting in your class when I was there at Poudre High School, and I remember that you made science fun. And that is one of the biggest things that I think can impact students at a school is making any class personal to them. And that's one thing Mr. Linzicki did very well. And, you know, I also remember a lot of my teachers were also my coaches. Coach Osborne, Coach Yonkers, Coach Bradley, they were all my teachers as well. And the one thing that everyone did at Poudre High School for me was spend time with me. And time is one of our most precious commodities. No one seems to have time anymore. Certainly not time to sit down with somebody else and help them with something. But the teachers at Poudre High School did. And they helped me along with difficult times, and they believed in me. They knew at that point I wanted to be an astronaut. Everybody knew. And they believed in me, and they told me that. And so when you listen to ones who you trust in and ones that believe in you and ones who love you, man, anything can happen. So I just really want to say thank you, Poudre High School. You made a tremendous difference in my life, and I'm not just saying that, but I have so many fond memories, especially of all the teachers and all my friends there. So take advantage, students. Take advantage of the teachers who are there. If they offer you their time, take them up on it.
Hi, I'm Kennedy. Does microgravity affect your digestion?
You know, we haven't noticed any difference up here. Certainly the first week or so that you're up here, astronauts don't feel great. They get something called space adaptation syndrome. And sometimes they feel a little nauseous and they don't eat as much, but that quickly resolves and everything works as normal. And kind of the cool thing is you can even eat upside down. Can't really do this on Earth very well. It doesn't work out and your body does not like it. But I can do it from up here, no problem.
Hi, my name is Sarah. Can you put on makeup in space?
So yes, you can, absolutely. I mean, I can wash my hair. You can definitely put makeup on up here. And it's, hygiene is a little different up here on board the space station. It takes longer to do things. Certainly even bathing yourself. We don't have a shower with a drain. We use kind of these wet towels that we saturate with water. And because of surface tension, water doesn't really go anywhere. So let me show you something real quick, actually. I wanted to show this to you guys. I'm going to show you what water does. This is just one of our drink bags. But, if you let the water grow from the drink bag, well, there it goes everywhere. But I can let that bubble grow, and then I can attach it to my hand. And that water's not going anywhere. That water sits right there. And it'll sit as long as it can until another force knocks it off. So when you're bathing yourself, that kind of creates an issue. But even when I wash my hair, the water will sit there unless I kind of move it through my scalp or I drink it off. But that is surface tension. Every bit of food, every bit of water does that up here.
Hi, Serena. My name is Shay Valerius. And can you please explain how similar or different training in the neutral buoyancy lab compares to when you conduct a spacewalk on the ISS?
Yeah, absolutely. The Neutral Buoyancy Lab is one of the best simulations we have for doing spacewalks. The pool is massive, but once you get in that suit, and these are actual suits, they don't change them any, and you get underwater, and we have special divers that weigh us out, so they either add foam or add weights to make us neutrally buoyant in the water. It's as close as you can get to the real thing. The only thing that's a little different is probably the drag of the water. But we go down when we do training, and we spend about 6 to 7 hours in that suit and practice fixing things on the external part of station. And so, especially the parts leading up to that event, so learning how to get in the suit correctly, learning how to fix all the parts of the suit, resize the different parts of the suit. These are also things that we train for all the time. And so by the time we get up here, everybody's really comfortable.
Dr. Ryan, thank you so much for reconnecting with your alma mater all the way from the International Space Station. I would be remiss if I didn't remind you of your senior class quote, which read, "Hey guys, watch for me in the stars." So thank you, Dr. Anand, for showing our students how to reach for the stars.
Thanks, guys. It was great being with you.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all the participants from Poudre High School. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.